Plastic push fit pipe is now very common. This is a piece of 15mm John Guest PEX barrier pipe. This is now very common. There are a lot of plumbers out there that will only use plastic pipe because it is so much easier to use and so much faster to install. There are a couple of things you need to be aware of when you're using plastic pipe and push fit fittings. So we're going to take a look at those in this video. You can see that I've got two pieces of 15mm PEX pipe here, and they both actually look identical, but one is made by HEP2O, one is made by John Guest Speedfit. A lot of this pipe is actually guaranteed, and some of it is guaranteed for 25 years. In this example, we're actually going to make a joint using the John Guest Speedfit pipe. One thing you should never do is mix up the fittings, so you should never use John Guest Speedfit fittings on HEP2O pipe. If you read the instructions, it does actually say that you should only use the correct fittings for the pipe. So for the Speedfit pipe, you need to use the Speedfit fittings. You could probably get away with using HEP2O fittings on the Speedfit pipe, but if there is an accident and one of the joints blow off, they're obviously going to blame you for using the incorrect fitting with the incorrect pipe. For that reason, you should always use the same pipe and the same make of fittings. Most of the push fit fittings manufacturers do say that you can use their fittings with copper pipe. So you should be able to use any make of copper pipe with push fit fittings. So this is the John Guest Speedfit, which is very common in the UK. You will notice that this actually has marks on, and they are cut marks to help you to ensure that you get the fitting fully inserted. You should only cut this pipe where the cut marks are, and that will help you when you come to make the joint, because the next cut mark along will be visible at the collet. To cut the pipe, you're going to need a specialist cutter like that. That simply has a sharp blade in there. Some of the manufacturers do sell their own cutters, and there are quite a few of these different types available. This is a particularly good one. This is a Rothenberger. So to cut the pipe, it's very easy. We're simply going to choose a cut mark, but then take the special cutter, and we're just going to put that on there, and then we'll just squeeze the handles, and that will cut the pipe cleanly. The important thing now is to use an insert. You will notice this one has got two O-rings on it. That is a John Guest Super Seal insert. They don't all look like that. Some of them don't have the O-rings on. So what you do is take your pipe, take your insert, push that in with a twisting motion. And that needs to go all the way in. So whenever you make a joint with a plastic pipe, you always need to put an insert in like that. I'd just like to point out that you can actually use these with compression fittings, should you wish to do so. It's always a good idea as well to inspect the end of the pipe to ensure that there are no scratches or anything on the pipe that can damage the O-ring. Some people have suggested using a hacksaw to cut this pipe. That is not a good idea. It can actually leave a burr on the edge, which can damage the O-ring, causing it to leak at a later date. So you need to ensure that the insert is pushed all the way in like so. Fittings now come in plastic bags like so. These are very handy because they actually have the instructions on the side. It's a good idea to keep them in the bag until you need to use them. Some manufacturers use silicone grease on the inside to lubricate the O-ring, and if you take them out the packet, that can actually dry up, causing it not to work as well. So this is a John Guest Speedfit fitting, and it needs to be in the open position like so before we insert the pipe. And as I pointed out earlier, I've cut it on the cut mark, so we need to insert this pipe so that that mark goes all the way in. Before I do that, I'll just make a couple of points about these. You should never let children play with these, because in the inside of there are some stainless steel grip rings that can damage your fingers. So never push anything in there either. Don't go putting your finger in, because it can actually damage you. You might just be able to see the stainless steel grip rings on the inside of there. And you can actually see the O-ring at the end there that does the sealing. So we're now going to take the pipe, and what we're looking for is to push it in until that mark reaches the back of the collet there. So I'm going to get that, I'm going to push it all the way in, and you can see that that has gone all the way in there. Once it's in, we can then twist that half of the fitting, and that is now locked in position. We'll now do exactly the same with the other piece of pipe. Let's turn that around, then you can see the mark. The mark is there. So we now need to lock that half of the fitting as well. So we just twist that all the way in. So now we have a perfectly made joint in there that will be able to withstand a lot of pressure. What you can also do with these fittings is you can buy collet clips like so. They are 15mm ones and they come colour coded like so. So you can actually get a white one, a blue one or a red one. And you can actually use those and they can be pushed in between the collet and the fitting there, and that will ensure that nobody can undo the fitting, and it'll also ensure that the fitting won't come undone accidentally. So if you're ever worried about these kinds of fittings, especially if you're in an area where somebody might mess about with them, such as kids, etc., you can always use a collet clip like that. Simply insert that in there and that will ensure that nobody can mess about with the fitting. So making a joint with plastic push fit pipe is an absolute piece of cake. It really is child's play. You do just have to be careful. Don't go cutting it with an hacksaw. Ensure the pipe isn't damaged and you will have a very successful joint that will last for years. Some of these manufacturers are now guaranteeing their fittings for 25 years. So I'll now just pop these off. We'll undo the fitting. We simply need to push in the collet there and then pull the pipe like so. Sometimes with these you will find that the collet will come out of the end. Well, that's nothing to worry about. If that comes out, simply push it back in. Obviously you do need to ensure that it's not damaged though before you put it back in. If you want to join plastic pipe to copper pipe, it's very easy. I'm simply going to cut that using a pipe slice. The critical point now is deburring the end of it. If you look at that, it does actually have burrs on the end. They can damage the O-ring and they can cause it to leak. So we're going to use this, which is a deburring tool that will deburr it externally and internally. So we simply need to push the pipe in there, give it a few twists. And do the same on the other side. That will deburr it internally. Sometimes what I do is take a piece of Scotch-Brite pad and I actually use that to ensure there are no burrs on the end there. That will give you a really clean piece of pipe on the end. This is actually very useful as well if you get a pipe in a location where you can't actually get the deburring tool in. You can wrap that around the pipe and you can ensure that there are no burrs on the end of it. So we can be sure that that is now burr free. You don't need to use an insert on copper pipe. All you need to do is ensure that the fitting is in the open position, take the pipe, push it all the way in until you feel it physically stop, and then rotate that collar again to lock the fitting. Again, if you want to, you can use a collet clip on there and that will prevent it from coming undone. So push fit pipe is absolutely fantastic. It is very fast, very easy to use. It's often cheaper than copper pipe and copper fittings, and virtually anybody can do it. It really is idiot proof. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you've not done so already, please subscribe to the channel.